Rise and shine, fever dreamers. Look alive, my friends. I'm V Spear.
And I'm Sami Sage.
And this is American Fever Dream, presented by Betches News,
where we explore the absurdities and oddities of talking to Jasmine Crockett, which we are bringing you to in 1 second.
Today is the day. I didn't get to sit in on this one, so I am equally excited to hear Sami's conversation with Jasmine Crockett.
She is truly amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. What a gem.
She's a cool lady.
What a gem.
I remember meeting her when she first got in office and thinking wow, is she one, a snappy dresser? Two, she has so much presence and is so thoughtful and smart and cool and just gets it. And I was like, yeah, I love this. But I'm excited to be an audience member today with the rest of the audience members.
Yep. I remember the first time I saw her on TV. It must have been 2021. I was like, damn.
Yeah, she's the thing.
She's got it. Anyway, listen to her Listen to her have it. I don't know what I'm talking about. Sorry.
She's about to give it to you.
Anyway, she's about to give it to you. Hello and welcome to American Fever Dream. I'm Sami Sage. And right now I have the pleasure to be joined with someone who I would say is probably on everyone's list of the top 5 Democrats or who are doing something right now. Representative Jasmine F. Crockett. And the F is really your middle name.
It really is. But when you say it that way, that's so funny. No one's ever done that. That was witty. Yeah.
Well, you should embrace that.
I should.
It really makes sense for the brand.
I will. It really does.
You could be like your alter ego.
Yes.
Like when you're out of DC.
Yeah. When I'm in DC.
Or yes, when you're in DC, that's what really you need. Yeah. You've made quite an impact, even in just the 3 years that you've been in office for?
Yeah, I am at 2 years and 1/4 down.
Wow. So that is, and I think about, and the time you've been there, Democrats are obviously going through this transition where, are they going to fight or are they going to be, J.B. Pritzker called out the Democrats are being too timid. And you from day one have been the farthest thing from it. And, I mean that in the best way. And have you always been like that? Have you always been someone who kind of walks into a space and just can't help but have an impact? What's your background?
I don't know if I can't help but have an impact, but I will say that I have always been pretty bold and never been described as somebody that's shy. And when I do something, I do it for more than, say, a title or some recognition. I do it because I believe it. And when you believe something, you go hard, right? It's kind of like anytime I've ever had an opportunity to talk to kids about what they're going to do in the future and to listen to kids talk about what their parents want them to do versus what they're passionate about. I'm like, listen, just do what moves you because you will do so much better, right? And so that's kind of been my motto forever. And so that's why you get what you get with me in elected office or even not in elected office. People that have had a chance to see me in the courtrooms know that by the time I'm in trial, baby, it's on, right? And I am all in and I've studied and I'm passionate and I know which ways I can go and I miss the courtroom. But you know what? I can tell you for sure, because a lot of people always wonder oh, were your parents political? No. They were... one of the things that I say a lot of times now is that there are those that are politically engaged, but we are all politically impacted, right? Mm-hmm. And so I won't say that they were necessarily super hyper politically engaged, but they were always voters and that kind of stuff. But they didn't see me as a politician, nor did I. I'm actually terrible at politics.
Honestly, I think maybe you're terrible at the politics that we maybe thought about it as it was in the 90s or the 2000s and the 2010s. But I think that we're seeing that that's actually quite expired of a way of thinking about it.
That's a good way to describe it. But politics in general, working in a law firm, I was just I can't do this.
Internal politics.
Yeah, I can't do that.
So then you're I'm going to go into real politics.
Yeah, I guess.
So you didn't always want to run for elected office?
No. But my first race was the only one that I lost, and I was 28.
And hopefully forever.
I don't know. I believe that everything happens for a reason, and it took me going through that experience for me to be able to be prepared for the next one. And I said I would never run for office again. So my very first race, I ran for a district attorney at the tender age of 28. and it was in East Texas.
Well, you're older than Big Balls, and he's destroying the whole government. So
absolutely.
I think you could have handled it.
Yeah, I could have, and I would have been a great prosecutor. But clearly it's just not what God had in store. But going through the process, learning how to campaign, learning how to raise money, learning how to organize and pull people together, that is what I got out of that. And so 10 years later, because I said I was never doing it again, 10 years later is when I ran for office again, and I was successful. I overcame being outspent 5-1. I overcame being out endorsed. I mean, everybody endorsed against me, it felt like, and I won. And here it was, I won the closest race in the entire state of Texas to get to the state house, only winning by 90 votes. And so I was a thank you Lottie into the class. And soon thereafter, not even after, a full term, here it was, I was being called up by my predecessor to run on the federal level.
How does your faith play into, what you're doing in office, or even your motivation to run? Because you said it happens for a reason.
Well, first of all, you got to have a lot of faith. You got to have something.
Yeah.
Especially in these times.
Well, not everyone, they don't know.
Yeah.
You got something else. You got to have an ego. Ego or faith.
But ego doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. It doesn't necessarily get you to the point that you can make other people believe in your work. Because ego is about you, right?
I guess it depends what a good con artist you are, as we've seen.
That's true too. That's true too. But
unfortunately,
I think that, and actually what he is a predator as far as I'm concerned. He has predatory kind of ways. He goes out and he taunts people and he bullies people and he makes people feel like, you know what, that's what it took for him to get his name on all the buildings. Like it took being this kind of, he's a shrewd businessman is the way that people have characterized him. And I'm like, no, he's just a loser businessman. And I don't know what kind of businesses he done ran successfully. You can be a businessman and be unsuccessful. And he is the poster child for it. I mean, we are on our 7th bankruptcy, and it's the bankruptcy of the United States.
Who could have seen it coming?
I try to tell people, especially Democrats, not to beat up on themselves too bad.
No, we're going to do that in a second. So, yeah.
Oh, well, I'll let you do the beating.
Fine.
Then, but I say that about my faith, it grounds me when I am trying to understand why I am going through certain things. I am encouraged to kind of just be still and to sit back and to watch and really wait on God to kind of like show me like, this is why you had to go through this, right? So I truly believe that the work that I'm doing is purposeful. And again, it ain't nothing that I ever wanted to do. But I always tell people that it's been God that put me on this journey. Every step of the way, when I look back, it's always that 2020 vision when I'm like, now why did I have to go to Texarkana of all places, right? Like when I'm going through all those, I can see like how it benefited me so much in where I am. And what's so funny is that I'm like, listen, especially when I talk to kids, I'm like, half my life has already passed me by. The work that I'm doing is for you and your generations. And people look at me and think I'm young, so they just be like, she young. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
I remember when I first Googled how old, like, I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, I'm not young. But in congressional years, years, I am.
I think we talk about age a lot, and we talk about, and especially within the party. And I think people talk about age as some sort of like proxy for what they really mean is like old school thinking.
Yes.
And like lack of originality.
Yes.
But Bernie Sanders is doing laps around the party. So
yes, I keep telling people, because I think there is a perception, because I'm in the younger wing in a number of ways by being a newer member as well as a younger member when we talk about my chronological age. I think that there is this idea that there's like this kind of clash. And I remember when we were dealing with the issues that we had with the Senate and everything. I'm not going to recap that. But when the House Democrats did our part and the Senate Democrats didn't necessarily follow our lead, I remember doing a live, and I did this live with Rosa DeLauro. And Rosa DeLauro is like a G. I mean, she's like an OG, right? Like, and if you want to know anything about appropriation, she gonna tell you where every dollar and dime and cent has like been spent, right? And she can teach you and educate you. And when we came in as freshmen, she took it upon herself as the ranking member of appropriations to sit us down as freshmen to make sure that our districts did not lack because we were just getting there. And it's a very complicated and fast moving situation. And so like people were like, this isn't the collab that I knew that I needed, right? And the thing is, it's like, no, Rosa has always been someone who was willing to teach and educate. And she's always also been like one of those champions that's like, hey, kiddo, get out there and get on social media and tell them this and that. And so she's great at that. And I remember during election season, I did this sit down interview and it was done by BET. It was envisioned by BET and it was like Black women through the generations. But you saw myself representing the youngest generation of Congress. And then you had Maxine Waters representing the most seasoned generation. And then you had Joyce Beatty that was kind of squished between us. And so there's so many of these amazing champions that I consistently talk to, learn from, and I am always encouraging younger members or newer members to tap into that because one day we won't have them to tap into and there's always so much value. So I appreciate that like the reality of my existence is really not one that is as clashy as the outward kind of world may think about me and my existence within the party. Now,
I don't think people think that you clash with the party. I think really your reputation is very much clashing with the other party. Like,
oh yeah, baby. No, yeah.
Which
yeah,
people appreciate. I honestly think like,
but I do know that those that understand the inner workings and thoughts of like,
they might think, okay.
the party, they know that.
Well, here's the thing.
They know that there's things still.
Look, Representative, if they were doing such a great job, would we be here when they just had a trifecta, some of those individuals? They had a trifecta under Joe Biden, and they did not do some of the things that the party now in charge would have very easily had no problem doing, clearly.
No comment.
Fine. Well, I do want to kind of talk about that because I was just speaking to someone who works in Democratic politics yesterday, and he was saying how like he doesn't think there are really very few Congress people who aren't just trying to get to a higher position of power. And I think, I mean, clearly the way you speak about it is an exception. Like, I think you're very much in the present with what you're trying to achieve and, not taking the future for granted. But I find it very annoying that it feels like politicians or many elected officials sort of seem to see the presidency as this like final boss job, that they have to like get to that. It's like when you could be really effective and an amazing leader and really make things happen without ever attaining that office. So why is it that people are so like stuck? Like, do they not feel the sense of alarm that Americans feel right now?
I don't know that that's the thing. I think that just like so many Americans are like, what do we do? I think that there definitely are a lot of members that have kind of got caught like flat-footed, like, well, what do we do, right? And then I also think that there are those that are such institutionalists, and I don't, hate on them for being that way, right? But the thing is, if you're so much of an institutionalist that you really don't believe that it can fail, then you fail to recognize.
May I present to you the Roman Empire?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you fail to realize it, right? And so I do think that there are those. It's almost like when you think about like certain deaths, right, that happen in your life, and you're like, and it doesn't hit you. Like one day later, it hits you. You're like, oh my gosh, they're gone. Right. I think that we still do. Like, and so that's why, I am curious to see kind of what will, really like shake some people and make them be like, okay, the shit is over.
The mob that came for them 4 years.
I wasn't there.
I know.
Right? I know you said them and I mean,
truly this isn't watching even just Democrats. It's the Republicans.
Watching that was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. So I can only begin to imagine experiencing that. And honestly, since I've been in Congress, I've had all kinds of interesting things happen. I'll just say that. But
tell us.
I'm saying as far as like encounters, so I can't imagine an entire mob of these kind of people.
What are the Republicans so afraid of? Why don't they just like let themselves get kicked out of office and then go work on some donor's board? Like they could literally be fine. Why do they keep doing this?
You have to have some sort of a moral compass.
So none of them. Like
I'm not gonna say none of them, but a lot of them left. You saw all those exits.
Yeah.
During all of the chaos of the last session, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the exits came around the time of them trying to replace their speaker. And
I remember.
It wasn't, because they try to act like, oh, political violence, it's the Democrats and it's the liberals. And it's like, actually, I mean, I'm not going to say that like a left-leaning person cannot be violent, because that would be like crazy to say that somebody can't be. But baby, y'all got the white supremacists galore, okay? Like all of them. You got the Proud Boys. You got the neo-Nazis. You have people that literally should be classified as domestic terrorists, because a lot of times that is what they are doing. They're engaging in domestic terrorism. And guess what? They all align with your side.
Yep.
Including the KKK. So like, I mean, this is who aligns with that. So like inherently in like who you are, y'all are violent. Like y'all, and most of your violence has to do with people that's got a little bit of melanin. But nevertheless, like y'all are a violent group of people. Like you attract violent actors. And like, I'm sorry, I know they tried to make Black Lives Matter out to be the most violent. What about Black Lives Matter? No. So that's the thing. Like they try to pretend like that. And so we had members that resigned because after they failed to vote for Jim Jordan as the speaker, there were people that got upset and they were texting threats to them and their wives. And, one member, his landlord said, you got to get out. And it was the office for his district. Like they just were like, yo, this is, and these were coming from your side, your side of the people. Right. So like,
they're more afraid of I feel like it used to be that they were afraid of like Trump tweeting about them. And now they're actually, I think, fearful of their own constituents.
They are fearful for different reasons. But yes, they're fearful of the super far right flank. And then they're also fearful of answering for doing all of the crazy things that they're doing. So to the people that have a little bit of sense, right? Like they've got some people that are like, hey, we're going to lose our farm. Can we talk about this? Right? Like they've got some people that are like seeking answers and they don't want to answer to them either. And then they don't want to lose their seats because there are people, and I'll say when you talked about egos, that's where the egos come in, right? The people that say, no, I am the such and such. Like they believe that the seat belongs to them. And no matter where I am and what I'm talking about, I tell people the seat has always belonged to the people. Yeah. I'm just occupying the seat right now. This ain't mine. It's the people's seat. And the people have every right to kick me out. I remember when I went through my situation with Marjorie. And I guess there's been a couple, but you know the one. You know the one. And I remember some members being like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, do you think I was like, let me tell you something. If I got to come to work and be berated by this fool, I don't want this job.
Do people not realize how this has made you like a household name? like this is what I'm confused about.
This was in the immediate aftermath. The immediate aftermath. This is what they were like saying and questioning. And I went home, and even before I could get home, the love was like pouring out. Like they were like, oh, thank God. And they were just like, yes. Thank you. But I can't really imagine showing up to work every day and saying, well, maybe I should just hold my tongue when someone is being blatantly disrespectful. And mind you, I did not violate any of the rules.
Right. I think that's like absent from a lot of people's like understanding of the situation. Like her comment about like your eyelashes. There's very specific rules in those committees about like comments, the way you speak to people.
It's called engaging in personalities.
Okay, I love that. I'm going to use that outside of that content. I'm not going to Congress. So yeah, obviously. Yeah. She's engaging in personalities.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of baffling to me. How does everyone around you not see like, oh, she just like did what everyone wanted from us? Like she stood up for us. And it's like in standing up for yourself, there was something very powerful for everyone watching it. Like, I'm not going to like let you like bring us here. And you were right. Obviously, I mean, it would be very different if like you were the provocateur, but you weren't.
Right.
And like, it was really frustrating that like, oh, you're just supposed to get hit and not, and be like, okay, sure, keep going.
Yeah. And that's what we've experienced within the party though.
Yeah.
And that is why I think there is this perception that Democrats are weak because they just get hit, and they're like, oh, but I'm going to show you what it's like to be congressional, right? Yeah. And it's like, baby, if you want to throw down, we can. Yeah. Now, if you want to do what we're supposed to do, I can do that too. Like, I can rock either way, right? But like, don't get it twisted and think that you're going to hit me and then I'm going to sit back and I'm still going to be on my congressional. Nope, I'm going to slap you back harder and then I'll get back on my congressional.
And that is actually Donald Trump's philosophy of life, that if someone hits you, you hit them back harder. And I mean, the difference is that it's like he's not afraid to provoke.
Yeah.
But I do have a question about that committee. So oversight committee.
Yes.
The big question is who is going to be the ranking member on the Democrat side? If you do end up getting the votes for that spot, what do you want to oversee first?
I don't know about first, but I will tell you this.
First tier of
investigations. It's everything for me, honestly. I mean, obviously, DOGE is a really big thing when you talk to everyday working Americans. They are like, what is happening? He has doged people out of their jobs to the extent that the United States has led in unemployment or firings, I should say, thus far this year, firing over 120,000 people. And we know that there are more people that technically are out. They have done their outs a little differently because they're civil servants and they have protections. We just went through a markup on yesterday, and they decided that they want to write out in our reconciliation bill, which is about the budget, they want to write out civil service protections and instead make everyone at will.
Schedule F. That's
basically
what it's.
That's basically what it is. Because I actually brought that up and I was like,
the same?
But y'all say y'all ain't know nothing about Project 2025. It's not exactly the same, but it is in an effort to push Schedule F, right? Because Schedule F is all about making sure that only loyalists exist, right? But when he went through these firings, and I pointed out to them as well, I said, seems like y'all are kind of admitting that y'all know that y'all couldn't do this. Because why are you needing to change the law? Because you know it was unlawful, right? So that's kind of what it is. And it's like, if you still want your civil service protection, then basically you have to take a pay cut. They're making them put more money into some of their benefits and that kind of stuff. So it's really trashy. And I'm like, I don't know who would want to work for the federal government. We've never paid people their due, number one. And I'm saying it too for me. You don't get paid your worth, right? I mean, we've got like leading scientists that are trying to cure. Yeah, exactly. But like you do it because you believe in the mission. This is mission work, right? And so like it's also used to be the most stable job you could have. It used to be.
Up until like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it used to be. Now it's like, ever since Trump came in, because the last shutdowns we had were under Trump. The longest shutdown we ever had in the history of this country was under Trump. And so that's when the stability of being a federal government worker started to get shaky. And then that's when we started to see the attacks on federal government workers trying to act like they lazy, they don't do anything, and they're worthless. And then to people that don't understand our budget, they think, oh, well, fired a bunch of people. We're saving a lot of money. No, we're not. No, we're not.
We're actually losing a lot of money.
We're losing a lot of money.
And that doesn't even count like the economic stimulus that will not be had for all.
Correct.
People don't realize how much of our GDP is actually government spending.
They have no idea about, I mean, but like you just break it down in small chunks. You think about if those people are not working, say, in DC, then what happens? There aren't just jobs for them to go to per se necessarily in DC. They may have to move somewhere else. And so
the housing market.
The housing market. And when you start talking about like the local grocery stores, or when you're talking about the restaurants, like everything is impacted, right?
Yeah.
Because we all, I just did a speech at home this past weekend, and it was to Black people. So usually when I'm talking to Black people, we always go to church. So we got to have a little church. So there is a song that says, "I need you to survive." And I said, that is what people failed to realize when they went out and voted, and they were like, well, I don't like the trans person, or I don't like the Black person, or I don't like the immigrant, or I don't like, the poor person, or whatever. But the reality is that we need each other to survive. That is the bottom line. And so that is what I talked about with them. But going back to oversight and what I would envision, it's a bold vision, if I'm being perfectly honest. Listen, besides the investigations that we can launch, and, some of that is going to be pretty limited because we are in the minority, but at a very minimum, as the ranker, we still can require that certain documentation be turned over to us. And so sending off and making those requests, and basically, if you don't give me what I asked for, I'm coming to your door. So FDA, I'm gonna need to understand how unsafe our food may be because of the random firings that you let this fool do who don't know nothing about nothing. It was always a oopsie, and there's going to be mistakes here and there and whatever. But these mistakes may cost people their lives, right? So now y'all just don't want to disclose and inform the public. So guess what? I'm going to do the work for you. So with oversight, I'm going to require, or it would be my vision to require, that we get with the FDA, we send out, we request those reports. And as we're not getting that information, if we're not getting that information back in, then it's time for a field hearing. We need to pull up to FDA and have some people take some seats. And we're going to go and have a field hearing. And we can do shadow field hearings in the minority. So in addition to that, I don't want to make people feel like Congress is just a DC thing, because then it becomes so far away, so detached. I want to do some field shadow hearings as well and take oversight into rural America and really let them know and see the amazing talent that we have, because it's a young committee. It's mostly freshmen and sophomores, and they are ready and they are eager. And I know that they would love to go on the road and go into some of these communities and give an opportunity to see that, listen, the fights that we're waging, they're not just for our constituents, but they're for you too. So I want to do that. I want to make sure, every time we get out of a DOGE hearing, you got your homegirl this doing a gaggle. I want to make sure that we are, because it's great to do investigations. It's great to do, to send off and get these documents. It's great to even get our amazing team on the committee, our committee staff, to do a report. But I got to tell somebody. I got to get out. I got to make sure we communicate. I got to make sure that we communicate in a way that people understand. And so I want to make sure that we are doing probably pressers pretty often, definitely every time we get out of DOGE subcommittee, and on some of the more important or stupid, I don't know, because we had to deal with them trying to get rid of Big Bird. So I don't know if I call a full press conference for that or not, but it is important, but it's stupid at the same time what they're doing. So but I want to do that, and I want to elevate the education in this country and be able to answer questions from the press about what they've seen, because most reporters are intelligent enough to understand and digest kind of what's going on. And when you're in committee, some of it is like, okay, we got to do clips so that people can get it. We got 5 minutes. But I really think that the way that we win going forward is education, because we lost because of disinformation.
I really think you're right about that education piece, because especially as the minority party, you really can't do much in terms of the legislation. Yeah. But what you can do is put on a performance.
Yes.
And what you're talking about, the shadow field hearings, I remember, right after Trump was elected, or right after he came into office, I think it was Timothy Snyder who was talking about that they should try to, the Democrats should try to create like a shadow cabinet and then be like really disciplined about messaging.
Yeah.
And I think that what Trump unfortunately has succeeded at is that he is good at like making a spectacle, going to work at McDonald's, you know, the driving the truck, like because Biden called his people garbage.
That
like
garbage truck was
I
real
forgot
bad.
that it was so, you know, I think that we need to do that. And it's not about like making it a spectacle for like to be kind of like trolling people. It's just like bringing attention to things that people actually care about. And I think that that is what is like really lacking. And I think that's what you do really well. And honestly, would you ever consider producing the Oversight Committee as like a show?
I don't know if I would produce it as a show. It is a show though.
I'll be the EP.
Lord knows.
I'll package it into good stuff.
It is a show. And I think that as a litigator, we're always taught, you know, as you're going through a trial, especially if it's going to be days and days long, that you should have a theme. So it's really important. And we really are a pretty tight-knit group to make sure that we like come up with a theme for like the hearing, like this is going to be like everybody hit on this one thing and do those things because that's what makes things memorable. And, you know, I've got to say, you know, I don't know when, you know, Jerry will step down, if he will step down. And I can just say that I'm completely grateful for his service. And it's such an honor to serve as his vice ranker on that committee. You know, I think that the question became, because it is such an integral and important committee, especially with this administration, once he announced that he wasn't going to seek re-election, everybody's like, okay, because you know that there's going to be a vacancy, right? Like, you know that like definitely next term, like Jerry isn't going to be in the seat because Jerry's not seeking re-election. But whether or not, you know, he comes back into the chamber and he resumes, or whether he ends up, you know, resigning in the middle of this term, we don't know. And so whenever the time comes, though, I don't want it to be mistaken that I'm not interested. I don't want it to be mistaken that I don't feel comfortable or excited or invigorated to be able to really go toe to toe. And as I told somebody the other day, I'm like, now listen, y'all know Trump would be so happy if it's me on the other side. And so, but no, there's lots to do, you know, as working as a former public defender. One of the things that I remember is they did not have like a federal pretrial facility in East Texas in the town that I was in. And so they contracted with our local jail. So when we started having overcrowding issues, that threatened their contract with the federal government. And so you have certain jail standards you're going to have to like live up to. And so I'm like, so are we checking on the jail standards down in El Salvador? Because if we giving them money, right? And so these are things that we can do. We can require that they give us reports, and like we can expose that they're not giving us those reports. And I want pictures. I want all the things. Don't have me sitting up here trying to get Comer to allow us to fly down every other day. No, but we do this all the time with jails that are housing people here.
Right.
If this, and that ain't even supposed to be a jail.
Also, Bukele is like, this is, he wanted proof that these were actually convicted or actually like dangerous criminals, or that they were, but I think he said he wanted proof that they're actually members of Tren de Aragua, or he doesn't want to take them. And the crazy thing is that the guy who calls himself the world's best dictator, coolest dictator, that guy has better human rights standards for due process than America.
Yeah, it's called we're living in the upside down, but you're absolutely right. And so, but those are some of the things. If you think it, you know, I have a ton of aviation in my district. Southwest Airlines is based in my district. JSX Airlines is based in my district. American Airlines is right up the street. And so when I think about all these planes, and it just seems like there's so many more planes that are going down. Like, I want to do oversight, and I want to figure out what is happening at FAA. Is this because of all the people that you have fired? Like, what are y'all missing? Like, I want to hear the stories. It happened
so quickly.
Yeah, no, it did. And I want reports. I want to know, just like we know that Trump so far has spent $220 billion more at this point in in 2025 than Joe Biden has spent at this point in 2024. I want the reports. I want to know by this time in 2024, tell me how many fatal accidents we had with plane. Like they don't want to produce this data. This is data that people know so that when they're making decisions, even if you say when you go to the ballot box, I don't like those gays or I don't like those immigrants, you say, but I do want to be safe. So I'm gonna just have to vote the other way, right? Like I want to give them something to vote for. And I think that there's been this hunger for people because they're like, well, for the most part, the Democrats are like, vote for me because I'm not them.
Yes. There's no pull. There's no message. And I also think that some of the leadership in the party actually really underestimates how much distrust there is that goes beyond Biden. Like Biden was a final straw thing for people. But I really think that the distrust goes back to 2008 when they thought they were getting all this change with Obama and they kind of just got more corporate bailouts. And look, the economy recovered, but so many of these people who became Trump voters that were Obama voters are the ones who felt like they got screwed by that. Yeah. And I think there's a lack of appreciation in DC in particular for how screwed people feel they were. Yeah. And I don't know how do you get that across to some people who are living in this true bubble?
It's tough because for the most part, it's well, we need to change our policy. I'm like, ain't nobody reading all that policy. The people listen, the people that are voting based on policy, they know where to find it.
They're doing it.
They right.
They're voting for you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, you trying to get people to you
trust
said that
you.
Exactly. You said the key word. It's about trust and building a rapport. That means you show up more than when you need something from them.
Yes.
You show up when you don't need anything from them. You show up and you give them the education. That is why I see power in doing things such as the shadow field hearings, right? Yes. Because you're going to show up. I remember just this week, I was with cotton farmers. I was on the ag committee last term, and there was a gentleman, he said, I remember you in Waco, Texas, because we had a farm bill listening session in Waco. So I was like, well, that's right down the street. I'm going. And everybody was like,
and that's not your district.
It ain't.
Yeah.
And they were looking, they were like, you going to Waco? That's
oh wow, you're going somewhere.
That's cult territory. That's the real, but anyway. So literally I went, I was like the only black woman in the rooms and the only Democrat for the most part, right? But being there, my presence and them hearing my understanding and my compassion, it made people be like, no, and so literally, when the Texas Farm Bureau brings, their lobby groups through, they always make sure they stop through to talk to me of all people, because I'm gonna just be a straight shooter. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing, and they'll say things like, we don't necessarily agree on all the policy, but we appreciate you because we know that you are fighting for America. We know that you really believe what you're doing, and people can respect that even if they disagree with you. And so I think that's why Trump and MAGA is so threatened by me, because my communication, it doesn't just get through to those on our side. It gets through to independents. It gets through to Republicans. I was just on my flight here, and there was a gentleman sitting next to me.
They're probably all wanting to talk to you.
That happened too. I had to do some pictures. But he actually is from Scotland.
Really?
And he was like, you're from Texas. And I was like, yeah. So I was thinking, oh, you're an immigrant, from Scotland.
Yeah. He was just a tourist.
No, he was here for his friend's wedding.
Wow.
He literally lives in Scotland, but he's like, I watch you on YouTube.
Wow.
And I think you're great. And I think and it's that type of impact.
Yeah.
That is what makes them make up lies about me and come up with all these bootleg AI websites and videos and talking about the husband I ain't never had and talk about these children I ain't never had and all the mansions that I'm hoping to get one day but I don't have. And that's what makes them, and it's so funny because I'm like, actually, what would be so bad if I
had a mansion?
Correct. Or 3, because that's their claim. you don't have a problem with the other people that got.
Yeah.
Why
I seem
would
to know a president who has a few.
Right. So why y'all got a problem with me? It is like the worst thing. It's like lock her up because she's got mansions. I'm like, wait a minute. Then it's like, she cosplays as a gangster. And it's like, I'm sorry. I ain't never called myself a gangster. And
I don't have the mansion.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's no mansion.
Yeah. And so they're like, but she went to private school. I'm like,
okay.
And so they're like, she's an elitist.
Aren't
like,
they into private schools? I thought they loved private schools. They hate
hello
public
school
schools.
vouchers. Hello school vouchers.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, so you should like me more. Honestly, you are doing more for the Democratic brand than, I don't know, 200 plus members combined, truly. And I think that every time you say something and you stand up for yourself or you stand up for anybody, I think what people are seeing is like, oh, that's a shine on the Democrats. Like, oh, she's a Democrat, she's fighting. And I think that's just what people want to see. Like, I think that I wish you could do some sort of like stem cell transplant to your colleagues, grow the little piece of the spine, just one vertebrae.
I will say that I think that, first of all, I have to say the people that have shown love, whether it's with your prayers, whether it's with, you fighting back in the comments on social media or sending, your donations, it makes a difference. I mean, to know that Al Green had a record Q1 and to know that Chris Murphy had a record Q1, to know that Bernie had a record Q1, to know that AOC had a record Q1, to know that I had a record Q1, it sent a message.
Well, the thing is, it's not the party's a little anti-capitalist these days, so they're not going to try to work for the donations. It's just not that's what confuses me. It's like they see that and they're not like, I could do that. Like, just pick one thing.
But that is the thing. Because, like, it's kind of like this situation with Marjorie, right? Like, they were like, whoo, like, don't know about that, right?
They have to wait to get their polls back.
But then once you see, like, money, because everything in D.C. is money. Once you see money.
Really a problem.
Once you see, my re-election numbers, I had the best re-election numbers of any challenged incumbent in the state of Texas for Congress, Democrat or Republican. So once you see that, it makes some of the people say, well, maybe I can relax a little bit, right? Like maybe I can bring out my more human side. Maybe it is okay that I'm not a robot, even when I'm sitting in, a committee room and someone is being insulting. Maybe it is okay for me to kind of do it in a more witty way, right? Like maybe I can. Now, I don't think that everybody is going to end up acting just like me, but I do think that the level of authenticity that we start to see, I feel like I'm starting to see some of that come out where the people that I know, when they're not cameras on them, that I'm starting to see them even when the cameras are on. And I think that it does say a lot when we do get the grassroots support, because then it says, okay, the party is with you. No poll is better than people actually putting their money down. Like there is no poll better.
Yeah, but I think it should. Look, I mean, you can't tell everyone what to say. Not everyone can do what you're going to do the way you do it. But I think it should tell people, like, I might as, pick a story. You have you have probably thousands of constituents calling you about various ways that their lives are affected. Yeah. Pick one story and make that a thing. Do you do your alliterations off the top of your head?
No.
You think of them in advance?
Kinda. Well, they're never in advance.
Okay.
They are more so in the moment, but I write them.
Okay, so it's not flying out of your mouth the first time you say it, but it's like coming to you.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
do some more.
No.
Thank you so much, Representative. You are just truly a light.
Thank you, and thanks for what y'all do. Yeah. We've got so many assholes online, and it's always so fun to see what ends up being posted by y'all. So, as a collective, taking it from just being, on IG, but making sure that you're doing the podcast, like making sure that you are doing comms all over and you're doing it for good, right?
Yes.
You're doing it for truth. And that really matters, especially now more than ever. So I just applaud you and honestly, the entire team.
Thank you. Thank you. It is all you guys. And Thank you.
All right.
That is American Fever Dream.
I feel she giveth. We promised you she'd give it to you, and I feel like she giveth. She served, she slayed.
She gave it.
It's giving, as the kids say.
Exactly. She did it. We hope you enjoyed that. We're big fans of Jasmine Crockett here, and we will see you next time.
Until next time, I'm V Spear.
I'm Sami Sage.
And this is American Fever Dream.
Good night.